Time for that magical part of the evening we call Over Under. Here's one story that's definitely underplayed. The Obama administration wants to push new fuel mileage standards for the car companies up 4 years from 2020 to 2016. Cars will need to get around 42 miles a gallon, trucks about 26 miles per gallon. So let me get this right. The car companies are collapsing, and the president wants to add another brick to that load. Jesse Eisinger is here, and Rob Cox, and Alexandra Leo is an editor at the Huffington Post. Alexandra, why don't you start us? You know, it turns out the big three, they don't meet the mileage standards at all that are coming up, but Hyundai, Honda, and Toyota, they already do.
Right, that's right. I mean, Obama's just cleaning up the mess of the Bush administration, who would give you a tax break if you drove the Hindenburg to work. And this is going to try to set new standards for companies that have been on their own and been failing for years. So hopefully this will give them the kick in the butt that they need to make the money that competing companies are.
Jesse, this isn't going to give them a kick in the butt. It's going to give them a kick in the teeth.
No, it'll spur some research and development, much needed research and development, because as just was pointed out, these guys have failed on their own, and they failed because they didn't offer consumers new, exciting products. This will finally be able to generate some new, interesting things.
Hey, Rob, how about car companies doing research and development on stuff that customers have asked for? No one's asking the car companies to come up with something that gets 35 miles to the gallon. The government is.
Well, I'll just point out that the government's also putting up all the money for R&D for the next 7 years anyway. So I suppose they can tell the car companies to do whatever they like. But I tend to agree with you. I think a market solution would be to actually give consumers a rebate or some sort of inducement to buy cars like this. And one idea would be to just give a dollar gallon gas tax of some sort. Then you'd have people spurred all over the place to meet the demand, which would be real demand rather than government manufactured demand.
So far, you bleeding hearts are like living up to the stereotype of a liberal press. All right, next, President Obama taking a page from the enemies of capitalism at the European Union and fixing to crack down on U.S. tech. Google seems to have a big old antitrust target on its back, the New York Times says. The Wall Street Journal also did a story, but I'll still say that this story is kind of underplayed. Jesse, tech is like our last hope, and now they're going to mess it up?
Dennis, I don't know what to say to all this barrage, but no, antitrust has been a completely neglected area under the Bush administration for 8 years.
Tell me who's been hurt.
We spur you. The right loves to break monopolies. The right wants free competition. This is just an area that Obama will spur more competition.
Rob, if Google has some kind of monopoly in search ads, it earned it fair and square, and it's providing incredible, powerful software features free of charge. How are consumers getting hurt, Rob?
Well, there isn't any evidence yet that they are getting hurt, but I do think it's right, and I guess I concur with my liberal colleagues on the panel here, that the government should be keeping a very close eye on any kind of monopolistic tendencies or any use of its large position to dominate or to crush any incipient competition. That is, as you know, exactly why the Sherman Antitrust Act was, of course, brought out by a Republican administration.
Boy, you guys, I'm so sad. I'm so sad. All right, let's move on to another one. One story that went from overplayed to way, way under the radar. Ethanol. Remember that fuel that was supposed to save our way of life? Well, today, the units of Pacific Ethanol filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Triumph of science over politics. Alexandra, why don't you kick us off?
Yes, ethanol is the Rush Limbaugh of energy products. It makes a ton of headlines, but it's completely useless for everyone. I mean, frankly, this thing is so inefficient. It costs more energy to make it than it produces in the long run. The market's fixed this problem, and it's gone out of business, and it's taking huge, huge hits. And that's exactly what should have happened.
All right. Jesse, I fear what you're going to say next. Go ahead.
I can only concur. It's a completely inefficient product. There was a mini bubble in ethanol, and the alternative fuel industries that were similar to ethanol. I think that we're going to get real alternative energies, but we have to put our money elsewhere. It's a good thing that these companies are finally
Rob
going
Cox,
to.
can you and I at least agree?
I'll give you a nice conservative stop. We should never have been supporting this ethanol industry, which was very much of a subsidy that was guided by Democratic interests in Congress and in Iowa and all those farm states, we should have actually been opening up free trade to Brazil and the Caribbean, where you had a much more efficient form of cane ethanol. We haven't done that. Now is the time to do it, but I bet you won't happen under this administration.
It's nice to hear one of you guys say something that's actually correct. Thank you very much for being with us. Please come back. Up next, my parting shot.